What's up, everyone? Good morning and welcome to Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Kyle Nabors along with Sean Hammond and appreciate everyone giving us a few extra minutes trying to work through a technical issue here just to give you guys a heads up. If my internet's been weird for about the last 24 hours, it's stable right now, but if I drop at some point during this, it lasts like 60 seconds, kicks back on. Sean will try and keep us going. But if I disappear once or twice during the show, that's why, guys.
It'll be a solo show if it has to be.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's so weird because it's not like the modem's resetting. It just like dropped for a second. Not quite sure what's going on, but hopefully everything will be okay. But just wanted to give everyone a heads up as we get started here. Friday morning. Thanks everyone who's joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube. Really appreciate it. If you are on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the Shaw Local YouTube page. Helps us quite a bit. But we're here to talk Bears Falcons and pulling up the last couple of days, looking through the Falcons depth chart. It's not anything that I didn't know already, Sean, but we know Ryan Pace is down there in the front office in Atlanta. It's been pretty widely reported and kind of joked about in Chicago about the Bears being or about Atlanta being Chicago South.
Yep.
But looking back through the roster this morning again, I am shocked by the amount of former Bears that are on this roster.
This is crazy. I'm just looking through this list right now, and not even just players but coaches too. They got several guys here. Dave Ragone, the offensive coordinator, was here. Charles London, Michael Petrie, Ted Monachino. Those are all former Bears coaches, and you look at the roster too. Elijah Wilkinson, Damian Williams, Cordero Patterson, Nick Kwiatkowski, Jermaine Ifedi, Demir Bird. It's insane.
Yeah, it's and I'm sorry, but like most of them aren't any good either. It's like they were bust in Chicago. A lot of them were bust before they got there. I know that sounds mean, but like it kind of fits the bill for Ryan Pace, to be completely honest with you.
Well, and it's funny because I was just talking to Eddie Jackson yesterday about largely about Cordero Patterson, who I'll have a story about later this afternoon. But I also brought that up, like, hey, all these former teammates of yours, and his response was, hey man, they found a home, and that's, when you're in the NFL, that's all that matters. So if Ryan Pace wants to give out contracts for his former Bears players, more power to him. He's employing people who need jobs, so that's good.
Yeah, it's tough to find a job in the NFL or keep a job in the NFL. So Ryan Pace keeping those paychecks coming. Rick checking in, Rick Gonzalez saying Patterson the best of them. Yeah, we're definitely going to hit on the Atlanta run game throughout the show today. Rick had something in here. This is where I want to start because Rick says this is a game the Bears should win. So will the refs screw us, or the Bears, or the Bears defense is what he's trying to say. Well, before we even get into the refs screwing them or the Bears defense, again, we talked about the refs have been bad the last couple of weeks. It probably does feel that way. But the thing that kind of I found interesting was I pulled up the line last night because I wanted to check. And the Bears right now are at +3, right? And for maybe the first time all season, I was like, that's I don't sports bet, to be completely honest. Like I'm not a big sports betting guy, but like that feels like a spot where you shouldn't be taking the points. Like just take the Bears to win, because to me, I look at the way these teams are progressing. I think the Bears are in better shape.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think obviously the Falcons can run the ball, and they have several guys who can do it, and they're really good run blocking. I don't think they're as impressive when they have to drop back and pass, and when they're in those third and longer situations where what's coming. I think they really struggle in that situation. The defenses are at this point, relatively even, but I think that's where the Bears have the edge is in the passing game. They can move the ball with Justin Fields a little bit more than the Falcons can with Marcus Mariota. Two teams in somewhat similar situations, although I think it's a big deal that the Bears seem to have a quarterback that they're going to keep for several years, whereas Marcus Mariota probably isn't that guy for the Falcons. But they're in similar situations, and you got to feel a little bit better about where you're at if you're the Bears than if you're the Falcons, largely because of that quarterback deal, and also just a lot of these these pieces around him, you can be optimistic for. I know the Falcons got some good young players. Drake London stands out. He's a guy who they drafted really highly. But yeah, I mean, I like the Bears in this matchup. I think this is a game that they certainly can win.
So I want to get into the Atlanta passing game because I find it really intriguing the way Atlanta has chosen to run its offense with Marcus Mariota. But before that, and sticking to this kind of theme, and we will get to everyone's questions. A lot's coming in the chat. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, keep it coming, guys.
But like I'm literally watching the Thursday night game last night and pulling up and looking through things, and it started to dawn on me. Anyone who's a regular on this show knows that I've been really critical of the way the Bears built their roster going into this season, and feeling like the Bears didn't do enough to make sure that they had given Justin Fields enough to make sure he's progressing. He's overcoming a lot of that despite that, and we can credit that to his natural ability, to proper coaching from Luke Getsy and the staff. There's a lot to do with that. But what I found interesting was at the beginning of this season, there were not a lot of rosters that I felt like that I would take the Bears over in the NFL, even when it comes to like the rebuilding teams, right? Atlanta was probably one of those teams. But because of the progression of Justin Fields and how this has come along, and this just shows you how quickly the progression of a young quarterback can start to paper over things. I'm definitely taking them over the Atlanta Falcons roster. I'm taking them over like Carolina. Like they're all suddenly like the Bears are edging up into that kind of that middle of the pack, if you know what I mean. Maybe not middle of the pack, but getting closer to the middle of the pack.
Well, yeah, certainly that also tells you just how important that quarterback position is, and how important it is to find a young guy who you can pencil in there for the future. And Marcus Mariota is a decent stopgap, but he's not going to be your quarterback of the future if you're the Falcons. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, they're winning enough games that they're going to be in that middle of the pack. The Falcons are. They're not going to be at the top of the draft unless things keep going south the second half of the year here. But they run the football well enough to stay in games. And obviously, you look at the record, they've been able to pick some of these games off too and win some of these games.
Yeah, particularly earlier in the year, like you looked at they got a win over San Francisco, the win over Cleveland. But I start looking at it, right? And this is kind of where we want to go to, and then we'll start getting into the question, guys. They started to pass the ball a little bit more over the last few weeks, but going back, I don't know how closely you've looked at box scores for the Atlanta Falcons, Sean, but do you know how many passes they attempted against the Cincinnati Bengals, a game that they were behind by like 3 scores within 10 minutes, maybe?
And this is I'm sorry, this was recent or this was early in the year?
This was about 4 weeks ago now.
Well, you're making me think it's going to be a lot.
No,
actually the opposite.
No. They passed the ball down multiple touchdowns in that game 13 times. Marcus Mariota attempted 13 passes.
Yeah, that sounds like the Bears in weeks 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, exactly. So like now you're seeing Mariota throwing a little bit more. I believe it was about 30 attempts last week, but it's just not a very good offense,
Well, and I think you watch them on tape and you understand why that's the case. You understand why they would only throw the ball 13 times, even when they're losing, because their run game is clearly far and away the best aspect of that offense. Anytime Marcus Mariota has to make a play on third down with his arm, it gets real shaky. I mean, going back and watching the film of that Carolina game a week ago Thursday, there were some really bad throws. He had one bad pick, and there was another one in that first half that should have been a pick. The guy just dropped it. It was right in his breadbasket. And they're gonna at some point need to find a quarterback who can make those throws. I mean, you can run the ball all you want, but you got to be able to do both in the NFL. And right now, they're not really doing it. And I know that offensive line is going to get a lot of credit for that run game too, but I was not impressed with their pass blocking, particularly on the interior. And I think that's an area where they've struggled, but you also look at the Bears, and I don't know if they have the horses to take advantage of that. You would think that they, that's an area where they should be able to. I would look for Justin Jones to have a good game this week. But we've just seen absolutely nothing from this Bears defensive line.
And so you took me exactly where I was hoping you would take that, because at the end of the day, I talk about like the Bears being +3 and thinking they win the game. This is the type of setting when you look at the matchups here, where if the Bears offense is able to score early, get an early lead, this is an opportunity. And I don't know if this Bears defense, I mean, as bad as it is, like, I don't know if they're even capable, but like, this is a potential opportunity to take an early lead and kind of pin your ears back and get after what is frankly a bad Atlanta offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a huge key. If they can get a lead early, it'd be nice to see the Bears play from ahead in a game like this against an opponent who you think they should be able to beat. And force the Falcons to throw the ball a little bit. I know that's not what they want to do, and it seems like they've earlier in the season they've tried to resist that even when they need to. But if you want to win games late, in the fourth quarter, at some point you're going to have to do that.
I saw someone earlier talk about Justin Fields on turf is going to be fun. Rick saying Fields indoor should be a big problem for Atlanta. And then Mike B saying the Atlanta defense is even worse than the Lions. Yeah, like I'm saying, like everything sets up here where if the Bears offense performs the way it has over the last month, like the Bears should be able to get a lead early in this game and really control it. But all right, so let's go ahead and dive in. But before we do that, I want to get a few more propers out of the way. If you don't follow us on Twitter, please do so at Bears_insider. Follow Sean on Twitter at Sean_Hammond. Follow myself on Twitter at Kyle Nabors. Make sure you go to shawlocal.com to get all of our content. We'll have a lot of preview stuff going up this afternoon and throughout the weekend for you. And Sean, now I'm going to get into a lot of these questions here. Go back up.
Yeah, let's dive right in.
All right, let's see if I can find where.
And keep them coming, guys.
So this is a good place to start. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, a lot of questions about Velus, and understandably so. So we're going to start with the kick return stuff, right? Speculation that Velus will be active on Sunday. So who returns kicks, Velus or Ebner, Sean?
Well, I would have to think if Velus is going to be active, he's going to be back there, because that's a big reason why you would activate him. I think there's a chance he could still be inactive. And if that's the case, it's probably Ebner. But you got two guys there. You got two options. Certainly, I do think that Velus has been better on kick return than on punt return. I know those are very different situations. And there's punt return is a really high pressure situation where you're trying to catch the ball with guys in your face sometimes. And, when he initially started having these fumbles, I thought they were going to still leave him on kick return because it's just a chance to get the ball in his hands and you got so much more space and there's not guys in your face when you catch it. So I would like to see him do that. But yeah, I think it just comes down to whether they have the roster spot for him on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, does it come down to him or Harry being active?
I would think so. Yes.
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, the other thing is, so like Ebner's already been active. So like if you bring another wide receiver, you only have two running backs.
And Ebner's going to be active with Khalil Herbert hurt.
Yeah, with Khalil Herbert hurt. So Gary, I think a couple other people had this question, guys. But Gary had said we are going to see Velus Jones at running back like Patterson. And I do think that's an interesting question because of the fact that the Bears only have David Montgomery, Treston Ebner. And if you wanted to make Velus active, that would be a way to use him in maybe as a running back isn't the correct term, but more of that, jack of all trades type guy where you're trying to get the ball in his hands 8, 10, 12 times in a game.
I tend to lean towards they're not going to do that. Somebody actually asked Luke Getsy about that yesterday, and he gave a very canned answer about we're looking at every possible option, blah blah blah. I just because we haven't really seen that. We've seen the jet sweeps, we've seen other ways to get him the ball. We haven't really seen him thrown there back there as sort of a running back, so to speak. Some guys in the chat, Darrington Evans is going to be called up from the practice squad. He'll be their other running back coming up.
That's true. And Darrington Evans actually has a bit of talent. I like him. He came over from the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, he has some experience.
Good third down back, good pass blocking back. There's a good chance they'll use him in that role. I think about that.
It's interesting too, though. because I was talking to a bunch of guys about Cordero Patterson yesterday, and Nick Morrow brought up, it sounds rudimentary when you put it like this, but he's like, I was asking him like why nobody else could get Cordero Patterson going, whether he was in New England, whether he was with the Bears. Everyone was trying to make him an offensive threat in addition to a special teams threat. And Nick was just like, you know what? You hand the ball off to a guy, it takes so much more out of the equation. You don't have to worry about pass protection. You don't have to worry about the route. You don't have to worry about the catch. You just get the ball in his gut and he runs. And so maybe at some point, that's something that they look to with Velus Jones because it eliminates all those other variables.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm not sure the Bears want to take that route quite yet because I feel like you're limiting your upside with Velus. But like at some point, you have to. I don't want to say cut your losses, right? Because it's really early to do that with Velus Jones. I feel like people are overreacting to a small sample size, and because of the fumbles, make it seem a lot worse. Like he's going to get another chance, I would assume, at the kind of the receiver. I don't know. Like he never had a position to begin with, which was kind of making it more difficult.
Yeah.
And then he struggles early. So it makes you start second guessing everything a bit more.
Yeah. And keep in mind, he missed 2 preseason games, which for most guys, it's whatever. But when you're talking about your rookies, especially a rookie who you're trying to get integrated into an offense, that's a pretty big deal. And so some of those early mistakes, I think you can really just chalk up to inexperience. And I don't think the Bears are gonna give up on him anytime soon. I do think we're gonna see him. I think we could see him this Sunday.
And so I think where that leaves me at is going back to the draft. Like I said, he didn't really have a position to begin with. I don't know. I never really thought he was what you would consider a wide receiver to begin with, right? Like he always seemed kind of like this Cordero
positionless guy.
Yeah. So are you trying? Are you holding out hope for something that isn't really there? But like we don't really know what the situation is with him. Like, did they just deactivate him or make him inactive because of the fumbles, or was it because like he wasn't progressing on offense as well to where they were like, well, if you can't catch a ball on punt return and you're not progressing quick enough on offense right now, then there's really no point,
Well, and here's the other thing too. I mean, the offense is playing well the last several weeks. The offense has found some answers.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to waste your time not waste, that's maybe too harsh, but you don't need to experiment. If you're trying to win football games right now, you're not going to spend your time experimenting with your rookie who hasn't been on the field just to get him the ball. You're going to do whatever you think you need to do to win the game.
Yeah, that's not a great sign, though, when it's a third-round pick.
No, I absolutely. And that's why I kind of say that cautiously, because obviously you need to know what he can do and what he is at some point. I guess it just kind of sucks that you didn't have the preseason to figure that out.
Yeah, I guess what that leaves us at on the topic of Velus is we really just don't know like what the Bears' plan is with him over the last 7 weeks and how much I have absolutely no idea. Like if they hope to get him more touches or if they just have kind of ridden it off for the season and said, all right, let's get him up to speed next year and go full steam ahead. I really don't know what they plan on doing.
Yeah, and maybe once they're officially out of the playoff hunt in late December, they get him some more looks and some more reps. And you're right, it could be a thing where they go into the offseason and say, okay, we need to have a better plan for this guy. What we were doing with him this season wasn't really working, or maybe he wasn't performing the way they wanted him to in practice. But you can take that whole offseason and address it and figure out ways to attack that come training camp next year. And that could be a good thing, for everybody.
Kawhi said Bears should use Velus like Tariq Cohen 2.0. I mean, they're different players. I mean, you can just tell if you just put them next to each other, but I kind of get the concept, right?
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
You could have him out there on third down as a guy, he hasn't really proven, we haven't seen him catch that many balls, in games, but I certainly think that that's not really an issue. I'm sure he can catch the ball, but I could see him being that type of guy who's out there on third down and gives you a little bit of speed.
So there's a question about offensive line stuff up there that I'll get to in a question, guys. But Rick had asked for an injury update. Who's in and who's out? And with Jenkins out again, I don't think that's official, but it's definitely trending that way, right?
Yeah, that is the biggest concern. Tevin Jenkins has not practiced this week.
Yeah. So and with Jenkins out again, does he have a chance of losing his job to like Borum? I hope not. Rick says. What do you think, Sean?
I don't think so. Just because they've had Michael Schofield filling in at that spot, and I don't think he's a guy who they're going to give the job to long term. I think whenever Tevin's healthy, he's going to be back out there. I think Tevin has just been playing better than Larry was at right tackle. I think that's what it comes down to. I think that's why they made that switch to Riley Reif, just because, well, the injury, it sucks that it had to happen because Larry got a concussion and had to miss a game. But then they realized, oh, this Riley Reif guy, hey, he's pretty good. He's decent, doing a better job. Let's stick with him. Other injury stuff. I mean, Jalen Johnson, yeah, he was dealing with that side injury. They called it an oblique, but he has not been on the injury report at all this week. So that's good. He should be good to go. He said he's good to go. Kindle Vildor is trending towards playing, which maybe doesn't excite people all that much, but you're talking about taking Jalen Jones off the field, an undrafted rookie. That just gives you a cornerback with a little bit more experience. Cole Kmet's dealing with that thigh injury from that play towards the end of the game where he got knocked down, but
that looked painful.
It looked painful. Yeah, I think he just caught it in the wrong spot. He sat out earlier this week, but he's back at practice. He'll be good. N'Keal Harry was out yesterday with an illness, so that's something to monitor too. As we're talking about that wide receiver position with Velus, if Harry's sick, obviously that's not good, and maybe that sort of will make that decision for the Bears. But yeah, Tevin is definitely the biggest injury concern. Al-Qadim Muhammad has also not practiced this week. He did not play last week either.
Mike B saying, wow, I never thought I'd be thrilled to hear Kindle Vildor would be back. The kid gives a big effort. I'll give him that. That is one of the biggest things. Like if you look at what the coaches have said about Kindle Vildor, I mean, going back to the last regime, right, is the buy-in from him and the extra work he puts in. Even when he was benched last year, they kept talking him up, and it was because of that work ethic. There are limitations to his game, but like particularly right now on a rebuilding squad, like the kid, as Mike says, the kid gives a big effort, and that counts.
Yeah, and it sucks the play he got hurt. He was going up against I can't remember which of the Miami receivers it was in the end zone. But yeah, he's sort of a boomer bust type of guy, but he gives a great effort. I've enjoyed covering him. I like talking to him. He's a good dude. Yeah, hopefully, you want to be at full strength there in that secondary, and Kindle, while he might not be like the most exciting cornerback, he's not your Jalen Johnson. He is a dude with experience, and that's going to help your defense.
Well, I mean, particularly when you talk about wanting to be full of strength in the secondary, when that's clearly the strength of your defense and the front seven, yeah, you want that front or that secondary. You do not need blown coverages in addition to not being able to rush the quarterback. Quickly, though, want to give a shout out to the sponsor of Shaw Locals Bears Insider Podcast, Marengo Guns. Always buying, always paying top dollar for your guns, ammo, and military items. Come see the experts at Marengo Guns. Open 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week. Now, I want to get back because renewable and recharge, man. If you don't mind, if I can get a real name or even an alias, I don't care if you give me a fake name, but it's easier to spit out than renewable and recharge when I try and pull up a question for you here.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah. He asked, are Carter and Leatherwood pushing Reif and Schofield at all, Sean?
I would say no at this point. I think if Carter was gonna battle for one of those starting guard spots, he would have done that by now. Leatherwood, I really think they're just playing the long game. I still think they would probably go with Borum over Leatherwood, but it's really hard to say without actually seeing practice. We only get to see the first 10, 15 minutes where they're stretching and where they're doing their individual drills one-on-one with the coaches. And it's hard to get a read on how those guys are doing in practice.
The RS. He said, and Rick got what I was actually going for. Triple R. I was actually going to say that the second you were done, man. Triple R. So yeah. Appreciate you joining the show regularly, Triple R. Really appreciate that. It's great having you guys on. It really helps us in terms of figuring out what we want to talk about each week. There are several questions in here. I'm just going to go with the one down at the bottom because it's easiest to find, guys. But Rick had said, why did Claypool's snaps go from 30 to 19, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, that was surprising. And I don't know that I don't have a good answer other than, it's really hard to learn an NFL offense in a short period of time. And I just don't think that 2 weeks was really enough for him to be out there the entire game. And that number may go up this week, but I still wouldn't expect it to go up a ton. There's a lot of intricacies to this. Luke Getsy was talking about how, past offenses he's worked with. He mentioned the 2014 Packers where, a lot of the formations were pretty simple. You could just plug and play guys. If somebody got injured, you just plug a guy into that spot and it's relatively easy to pick up. Whereas what the Bears are doing right now is, Darnell Mooney's moving all over the field. You got guys who are sometimes in this spot, sometimes in that. And that makes it a little bit tougher to learn this in a short period of time. And think about just how long all these other guys have been learning this offense. I mean, Luke Getsy and his staff came in April and they had that early OTA session that you get when you have a new coach. And it takes months to go. Just think about where this offense was the first month of the season. And you have to go through those growing pains to figure it out. And while I do think that Chase Claypool is, by the end of the year, he's going to be playing a lot more than that. I really do believe that. It's just going to take a little time.
Yeah, Mike B had followed up here with Tyke Tolbert pretty much said Claypool will see a lot more snaps, or we'll see a lot more this week. Is he just blowing smoke, or could that be the case? Now, I'll quickly say, Sean, and then throw it over to you. I mean, we definitely, whenever you hear NFL coaches talk about snap counts and how they want to get guys involved, take that with a giant grain of salt. Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to say anything that will give their opponents a clue on what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, sometimes they just flat out lie. They just flat out lie about how they plan on using people.
Oh yeah, they absolutely do.
And I'm not saying Tyke Tolbert was doing that.
No,
that's not what I'm saying. But
Tyke's a pretty good interview too, and he'll generally tell you. There's a lot of truth to what he says about these guys. So I'm inclined to believe him, but it's also kind of I'll believe it when I see it thing.
Yeah, and I guess what is a lot more? So I was surprised to see the snap count go down last week, but I also don't expect the snap count to go through the roof. I don't expect Chase Claypool to be playing, let's say 80 to 85% of snaps already, but you would think that number would be steadily increasing. Maybe last week was just a blip, and now throughout the second half of the season, as he's getting more acclimated to the playbook, as you said, Sean, as they start to maybe check off the boxes on some of the earlier guys like Equanimeous St. Brown and Dante Pettis, and they're like, all right, we can close that chapter and start giving some of those snaps to Chase. At some point, that I would have to assume that's going to be the case. I just don't know if it's going to be this week. With all that being said, though, and bringing this back to this weekend's game against Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons are dead last in pass defense. What's the season high for Justin Fields in passing yardage?
Off the top of my head, I think it's 208 or something like that. Let's see if I'm right. Hold on, let me look this up.
Okay, well,
it is 208. It is 208.
I mean, this sets up again, and part of it comes down to. It's so Gary said, do we see Justin over 225? And yeah, this is kind of what I'm wondering here, because this sets up for a game where you should see Justin Fields be able to have success through the air. The thing is, and this is what it all ties down to, and about how bad, I kind of expect the Bears to be able to control this game. And if they control the game, do you really need to open up the passing game?
Well, yeah, no, that's a fair point. But at the same time, I do worry about that Bears defense, which hasn't been great against the run, struggling to stop the Falcons, which is kind of crazy to say because of all the, issues we just talked about with their passing game. But If the Falcons are able to run the football on the Bears, this could be another opportunity for a high scoring game both ways. And if that is the way it shakes out, you're going to have Justin throwing the ball. And I would lean towards, I don't know if I'd say 225, but I would lean towards, I think this is the time he gets back over 200. You're playing indoors. It's potentially a high scoring game. But you're right. If they're playing from ahead, they don't necessarily have to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, who knows how I mean, Vegas is smarter than I am. And, they got the Bears as the underdog technically. So theoretically, that should be the game script. It should be a competitive game. I guess I really am sour on the Atlanta Falcons. Like I really dislike this team. I do not like the way it's constructed. I just think this is a game where the Bears. So Kyle, we need wide receiver to actually have hand. I completely agree. Then like the Bears, you want to see them open up the offense, but like the Bears, this coaching staff doesn't seem to be like, oh, let's make sure we get Justin Fields 35 pass attempts this week. They're still like, let's find a way to win football games. And you know what? That actually might be the case. Like the better approach this week, right? Because you do start to worry. Like Justin Fields has talked about the effects, like how much he hates losing, and he's a smart enough guy. He knows what this is. But like they've lost some heartbreaking games here recently. Like getting a W, finding a way to just be efficient and win a game might be enough. Or like the Bears might view that as a better teaching tool right now than saying that we need to get Justin Fields to air the ball out.
Yeah, I do think, the way that these last two games have played out, especially, and yeah, you can go back to that Minnesota game and that game against the Commanders. I think these guys just need a win. They need a win in a close game. And I absolutely think that that's what they're going to prioritize that over airing the ball out with Justin Fields. And they've shown that all season. They haven't aired the ball out with Justin Fields because they think that this running attack and what they're doing now is going to give them the best chance to win. And it has given them really good chances to win the last 2 weeks. They just haven't gotten over the hump.
Yeah. So we got about 15 minutes left. Keep throwing the questions in there, guys. We'll keep getting into them. There's some talk in the chat about linebackers. Let's talk a little bit about Jack Sanborn again here. It's been an interesting debate isn't the right word because I don't feel like it's a debate on Twitter. But he's generated a bit of buzz among Bears fans. You feel like this week with the 2 sacks, what should have been an interception. What have you seen from Jack? Like, do you think that this is something where maybe he's able to solidify a spot?
Well, I'll say this. I thought the most impressive thing I've seen him do is on that first sack where Jared Goff was running out to the left side near the end zone. Jack Sanborn did not bite even a little bit on that pass fake. Jared Goff reared back like he was going to throw it, and Sanborn just kept on coming and just smacked him and met him right at the spot. That was a really impressive play because your natural reaction when you see a guy put the ball up in the air is to put your hands up. But I think that is a perfect example of just how instinctually he plays. And he finds his way to the football. We saw it in the preseason. We saw it on that play, but you also see that in the interception that he had that was waved off the board by the penalty. He's just a guy who seems to always be around the football, and that's what you want in a linebacker. Sure, he might need he might have some things to work on in the passing game and his run block, or not run blocking, but in run defense, he's been impressive. He seems to instinctually know where those holes are going to be.
Sorry to cut you.
No, that's okay.
That's kind of. I'm talking to Mike B earlier in the week about this. Actually, about it shouldn't surprise people. I know he's an undrafted rookie, but like this isn't an undrafted rookie out of Sam Houston or UL Lafayette or some small school where it's some project, right? Like Jack Sanborn was a leader on some very, very good Wisconsin defenses.
Yes, and he played a lot of Big Ten football.
Yeah. So like he has incredible instincts. Even going back, like I got to see the kid play in high school. Like he has always been this type of player. So it's not shocking. The limitations obviously are the athleticism. But like that's okay. Like if you can figure out how to use him effectively and cover up his deficiencies in the athleticism, and particularly when it comes to the passing game that you talked about. I know Gary had talked in here or had dropped a chat. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Here it's actually down here. Sanborn needs to work on his play action drops. He bit too much. Yeah, he did like that, but that like you kind of it's I don't know how to explain it. Like you're doing your best to not let him get exposed in that area right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like that's something that will come with more experience too, specifically looking at the play action. He just needs to be out there in NFL games and see that. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy who played 45 games in college at a Big Ten school in some really high pressure situations at times. It's not surprising that he's having success. He's not the biggest guy he's certainly not as big as Roquan was at that position, and not that you necessarily need to be big at that position, but we know that Matt Eberflus kind of likes these long, lanky linebackers. So is he your answer for the future? I think that's still up in the air. I think he can be a really good player. He's certainly a really high quality backup. I think he's proving that these last couple of weeks, and if he can keep that going, he's only going to prove that further. But yeah, I think you know what, just get him out there these last couple of months of the season and see what he can do. Obviously they felt comfortable doing that when they traded Roquan.
Yeah. Gary with can a defensive line actually get a sack? A defensive lineman actually get a sack? Maybe the Bears can offer their players incentives. What kind of incentives are we talking about, Gary? You say incentives for getting sacked, and I immediately think about the New Orleans Saints and getting in trouble for that. So be careful with the incentive, buddy. But yeah, what would you? I mean, overall, who would you say the Bears' most effective defensive lineman has been? Maybe not over the course of the season. Let's just say over like the last month.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I got to go with Justin Jones at the defensive tackle spot. Nobody on the edge has really been that impressive. I mean, it's been a kind of disappointing stretch here for Travis Gibson. If I'm betting on somebody to get a sack this weekend, it's probably one of those two guys. El-Qadim Muhammad is trending towards not playing again, which means you're going to be looking at Dominique Robinson and Taco, the new guy, Taco, in Taco Charlton at the other defensive end spot. I would say Justin Jones. I know it's hard, it's hard because nobody has been like super impressive on that defensive line. Obviously, we know that. We talk about that ad nauseum every week, it seems like. But a couple times a game, Justin Jones is finding his way through that line, and that's impressive. But it's hard. It's hard when only one guy's getting through here or there. You really don't have a full-on pass rush from four guys, at least not successfully.
You don't. And again, we talked. You had hit on it earlier about the interior of Atlanta's offensive line has been on the struggle bus.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity. Like the Bears should be able to get pressure on Marcus Mariota.
They should. You see it from. You've seen it from multiple teams. If you go back and watch the film, they're able to get pressure when the Falcons have to throw the ball. Now, the Falcons do have some good, Drake London is a good receiver. Kyle Pitts is, he had a 1,000-yard season as a rookie tight end last year. Obviously, Cordero Patterson is doing what he's doing. They have some weapons. You got to get some pressure on the quarterback because that really just disrupts everything for this passing attack.
Oh, Kyle Pitts. The fantasy
on your fantasy team.
Well, it's the fantasy year for Kyle Pitts. Anyone who's in here that plays fantasy football knows it. Like the expectation for Kyle Pitts were really high. This guy that was taken in second and third rounds of fantasy drafts and is looking at like 2 to 3 targets a week at sometimes. They've started to use him a little bit more.
The most disappointing fantasy player of the season.
Good. So Gary says Kyle Pitts forgot how to play this year. I don't think Kyle Pitts forgot how to play this year, man. Like when the Atlanta Falcons are throwing the ball that 13 times sticks in my mind, but there's still a lot of games like Marcus Mariota's throwing the ball 20 times. It's just there's not a lot of passing opportunities. And Kyle Pitts is such a special player in terms of his ability to stretch a field. And they're not getting vertical with this offense really at all. Like I think Demir Bird had a 47-yard touchdown last week. And those type of plays have been few and far between from this offense.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting. I just pulled up Kyle Pitts's numbers, and through 9 games, he has 54 targets. He had 110 targets all of last year, and so the volume seems to be relatively the same. You're a little bit past halfway through the season, but you're right. They're just not getting vertical. He's got 313 yards at this point, 25 catches. It's the passing attack is just not able to really move downfield. They're really so reliant on that rushing attack to put them into these favorable situations. And then you can, if you get to 3rd and short, it's a lot easier than if you're at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 10, whatever.
I'm going back now because I said that about Demir Bird, and I don't think that was the right. No, I'm thinking of the first. Carolina and Atlanta have played twice in like 3 weeks.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Scheduling.
And that Demir Bird touchdown came in the first meeting, which was a 37-34 overtime game, and then they played a 25-15 game just this week. They split those 2 meetings. So this game, I want to get back to it, and this is probably as we head towards 45 minutes here and start getting ready to wrap up, going back over to really the theme of the season with Justin Fields, right? And what this comes down to, it's kind of a fun storyline this week with Justin returning home. I can't find the question from Rick right now, but Rick had asked about does Justin ball out returning home to Atlanta, or does he press a little much? What do you think?
I don't really think it's going to be that big of an effect on his game either way. It sounds like his parents are at his games every week. I know obviously it's different when you're going home and you're playing. And he said his dad used to have Falcons season tickets. So he's certainly been down. He's been at Falcons games when he was a kid, and that's pretty cool for him to now be playing down on that field. But I mean, I think this dude is so locked in. I don't even think I don't think he puts a lot of thought into that type of stuff.
Yeah, I also don't think he's the type of guy that gets rattled by it either. Considering some of the stages he's played on already in his football career, and just the way he carries himself, you interact with him all the time. Like as you get to know these guys, you can kind of get a bit of a feeling for like how they react to certain situations. There's nothing about his personality that makes me think he's going to step on the football field and be rattled. I think there's a much higher chance that he goes out and balls out,
Yeah, I do. I think there's a much higher chance of that as well. And like we said, you're playing indoors, the conditions are ripe for it. And it's funny with him, like when it's time to work, that he is so serious. You watch him on the sideline, and like there's no joking around with him when it's game time and when you're in the football game. And other guys, they might take a breather when they're on the sideline. He's not like that. He's locked in this entire game.
Yeah, definitely. I have a feeling we have a relation. I'm not sure. Is this a brother? Your dad? I'm not sure.
Oh, this is my brother.
This is your brother, huh?
Dan.
So is this is Fields a fantasy football league winner? I'm assuming there's a story behind this question.
Okay, so Dan here is in first place in our league. Has a two game lead on me. He had Trey Lance. He went in for Trey Lance. Maybe picked him a round or two early, and obviously the injury that didn't work out. And he lucked out by getting Justin Fields on the waiver wire a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, man. He's scoring a lot of points. It's really working out for you.
I had 2 different friends text me, both Packers fans actually, that talked about picking up Justin Fields a couple of weeks ago in their fantasy football league and feeling weird that they now have to root for the Bears because they're rooting through that for Justin Fields. But he is breaking fantasy football.
It is
right now.
I mean, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah. Even like despite the slow start of the year,
shot up despite that slow start. The last 3 weeks have been crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So like and we'll talk. I don't want to get into my own stuff, I guess. But like we talk about like fantasy football. I like playing what's called best ball. So like you draft a
Hmm.
team at the beginning of the year and you don't get it. And Justin Fields, like you draft 20 rounds, and Justin Fields was a guy I was drafting like the 18th round because just no one wanted him, and I was like, well, I'll just take that, stash him as like your third
Oh,
quarterback.
that's working out for
So
you.
like yeah. So I'm just laughing now. Like, are these some of those teams felt dead because he was like they were so bad the first 6 weeks, but like it's funny because like they're just shooting up the board, and I'm sure there are people in this chat that are just like anyone right now. It's just anyone playing fantasy football that was lucky enough to scoop up Justin Fields is just going to be printing money.
Oh man, I'm rolling my eyes because I've been chasing Dan for that first place spot all season. He's been in the front, in the catbird seat, as our guy Hawk Harrelson would say, for most of the year. And I, of course, he winds up getting Fields. Picked him up at the right time. And yeah, the people who did that are really, they are seeing the rewards right now.
Tim drops in with concerned with Fields' leg. Could there be a game plan that has him running less designed runs? Sean, what do you think?
I don't think so. I think it's just, I think it's just natural to rest a little bit when you're playing that style, and I wouldn't be concerned that. I don't think that they're concerned at all that Justin's going to be tired on game day, especially if he's easing up a little bit on Wednesday, Thursday, as he's getting ready for the game. There's no need to be doing any extra conditioning when you're running 147 yards a game.
So when we get to like week 17 and week 18, near the end of the year, I could see the Bears start to pull back and say, Justin, like we're gonna limit the running potential. But I think over the next 5-6 games, still just doing the math in my head really quickly there. So I think this offense is still enough of a work in progress, and it's still evolving, that you don't want to limit Justin Fields and what has worked. Like, you don't want to put a cap. You want to continue to see how it evolves and builds upon itself. And that's a natural progression with him running. Like, you're not going to start to pull that back out of the offense, I don't think. Like, you look at the way he is, like, I get really annoyed with people that, and some of them are trolls, whatever, right? But like this idea, like Justin Fields isn't a true quarterback because, like the amount he's running, he's not a pocket passer, blah, 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 all that. This idea, though, of this pocket passer, like this idea that you need to throw for a certain amount of yards or you need to pass the ball a certain amount of times, it's outdated in the NFL. Teams are using more and more college concepts. The Bears are copying the Baltimore Ravens for a reason. Like, this is the way the NFL is trending. And if you have a quarterback that is in the mold of Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields, and Justin Fields, I think, has a higher potential overall as a passer than Lamar Jackson does. But like people have to get out of this mindset. Like, I don't think there's going to ever be a consistent time where Justin Fields, at least in the near future, right? Like
right now this season, certainly.
Or even over the next couple of years. I don't think there's going to be a consistent time period where you're seeing Justin Fields drop back 40 or 45 times in a game, or even 35 times in a game very often. They want to use the offense in the way they're employing it right now.
Well, and you just pulled this skill set out of the box. It was hidden away. We all knew it was there, but we didn't see it the first couple of weeks. And you just open up the box and pull it out. You're not going to stuff it back in. This is, and that's the thing. Like with Justin, a lot of these runs, especially on the scrambles, they just feel so instinctual and so natural. I don't even know that at this point, now that he's got confidence doing that, I don't even know that you can put that back in. He sees an opportunity to run, he's going to run.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that. Once you unlock that, it's really difficult to turn that off. And I think there's a higher chance you end up getting Justin Fields hurt if he starts becoming hesitant because he has that in his head. Like if it's full,
now,
if go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, now maybe like you could do 1 or 2 or 3 fewer designed runs, sure, but I wouldn't change it up more than maybe just a couple of plays.
Yeah, maybe you see those design runs are let's say Valus is active. Maybe that's where you're talking about those 2 or 3
Yeah.
design runs for Justin Fields turn into those kind of way to get Valus Jones the ball in his hands. That could be like the little adjustments you make, but overall, I don't expect there to be a pretty wide change. Quickly, I want to see. Quiet asked this. Early in the season, Fields sat alone between series with no iPad. Now he seems to be engaged. What changed?
I really think that just depends on when the cameras capture him.
Yeah,
because he's looking at the tablets every time. But he'll look at the tablet for a couple minutes after the drive. He'll check out the pictures or whatever, and then he'll put it away. So I think that's just depends on when the cameras are pointed his direction.
Yeah, I mean he's certainly engaged. I think that maybe the difference that you see now from the beginning of the season, if anything, I don't think maybe it's he's become more vocal or more outward in terms of the way he shows his leadership. And I think that's just natural for a young player as they start to feel like they command a team. As they get more confident on the field themselves, it kind of leads to those, it builds upon itself is what I would say.
And look, the sideline demeanor is going to be a lot better when you're moving the ball and having success. And I think early in the season there was some frustration there from everybody because especially in that passing game, they really weren't doing what they wanted to do. So from that perspective, it's not surprising that maybe there's a little bit better vibes down there.
Definitely. And it's funny, you talking about sideline vibes. Before we get out of here, I'm going to derail us for a second. Did you watch the game last night?
I did not. No.
It was a good call by you because it wasn't a particularly good game. Although I'm sure
I saw the final score. I saw who did well, but I didn't watch any of it.
I did watch it, and Green Bay was a complete disaster. Like guys, wide receivers not working back to the ball. Aaron Rodgers not very accurate. It was. I'm not sure I've ever seen Green Bay look so out of sorts as they did last night. I'm sure Bears fans had smiles. Anyone that watched that game that was a Bears fan was enjoying that last night.
And it's crazy because the last few years when the Packers get off to a slow start, we say, we give them the benefit of the doubt. They're going to get this thing figured out. And this year feels like the exact opposite. It seems like they've gotten worse as the season has gone on.
Might be. Green Bay was not even competitive. That 10-point loss may have. Well, yeah. I mean, it felt like that. It was not a very good game by the Packers. All right, so we're at 50 minutes. It's awesome. I'm going to throw these up here. We got people. We always like to give our picks here. We got Rick with I got Bears 30-24. Mike Johnson Bears 35-32. Kawhi. Let's see. Kawhi with Bears 27-21. I'd call you all Bears homers, but I'm picking the Bears myself, and I think it's going to be about 35-24 Bears. I think they get an early lead in this game. I think they're able to control it throughout, Sean. I think this is a game, not that they run away a hide, but I think the Bears win it.
I think they're going to score a lot of points again. I have it a little bit closer. I'm going to say 35-32. I think it's a field goal game. I do worry about that Falcons rushing attack. If they don't have to throw the ball, I think they can move it against the Bears. But I do think that the Bears should win this game. I think I think they're finally going to get over the hump and win a close game, and that would be great to see for Justin Fields and this team.
Gary says Bears 28-21. All right. So, Sean, before we sign off, we're going to do this on air just because it's a little easier to let everyone know. Next week, obviously, we got the holiday. We got Thanksgiving on Friday and Saturday next week. I actually will be at Sean's old college stomping grounds. I'll be down in Champaign with our crew for Friday Night Drive covering all 8 games for state football. So be pretty difficult to do a Friday morning show. You're going to be traveling back from Atlanta, I'm guessing Sunday night.
Yeah, I'm flying back Sunday night, so we could do a show Monday, but maybe push it back an hour or two.
Well, okay, we'll talk about that, but we might Monday or Tuesday at 9:30, guys. We're only going to do one show next week.
Yeah, actually, that's true. We should probably only do one.
Yeah, we're going to keep it to one show since next week. We'll figure out if it's going to be Monday or Tuesday, guys, and then let you guys know. I'll throw that onto social media and let you guys know.
We'll get the word out.
But yeah, expect one show next week. But let's go ahead and sign off, Sean. Everyone, thank you for joining us. It's great. Again, make sure you like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If not, go find it on YouTube for us. Please like and subscribe. It really does help us grow the channel, helps more people find the show. Also follow us on Twitter at Bears_Insider, at Sean_Hammond, and at Kyle Nabors. And of course, all of our content is at ShawLocal.com. We'd love to have you guys as subscribers. It's, we got to pay the bills. So everyone that we can get to join, read our content, that's what we do. So we appreciate everyone that does join. So for now, though, going to sign off. Thank you, everyone, once again for joining us this morning. Enjoy a good weekend of football, and we'll talk to you early next week.